Welcome back for another episode of Sunday SoulDay and happy Black History Month. Today we are diving into relationship challenges, motherhood, and the power of mindset. We're joined by Kamal Kaur, a certified relationship and mindset life coach who is trained in mindfulness and meditation and has certifications in sound healing. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome to Sunday SoulDay, Kamal.
Thank you so much, Damesha.
Thank you for blessing the show. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yeah, definitely. I am super excited to be here. And your podcast name says it all, soul conversation. So I am super
Yes.
excited. I am grateful for this opportunity. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love the audience to get to know you a little bit. Your background in accounting is quite different from your current work in mindfulness and emotional coaching. What sparked that transition? Like, how did you kind of take your personal experiences and how did they shape your decision to move forward as a coach?
Yes, it's definitely different in so many ways. I've been working as an accountant in corporate for over 13 years now. Um, so I think when the transition happened, it happened when mainly, if I, recall everything, it was after having kids. So I got married after having kids when everything really hit me. Um, Life was very stressful from every angle that you say, from relationships, from job. I was having such a hard time making a balance. I
Mhm.
had no family and work-life balance. I was a mess when it came down to emotions and relations and everything. So a lot of other things happened along the way. I remember very clearly one day, this is after me having kids. One day I woke up and my eyes were just completely red, all around. And I'm like, my God, just what just happened? I knew I was always stressed, but who pays attention when you're stressed and what stress does to your body? And now I understand, but I didn't know at that time. Um, it happened three times. First time, I'm like, I don't know what happened. I went to eye doctor, I went to dermatologist. They couldn't find anything. And then it happened again. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. The third time it happened, and my coworker, I were randomly, she said, "Wow, this happened third time. Are you sure you're not, this is not happening because of stress?" Um,
Mhm.
just didn't want to accept it. Of course I knew, but that made me look into it deeply because now it was affecting my health. Because, it was affecting my health. Now it was affecting my work-life balance and my life in general more. So slowly and slowly I started looking into it, becoming more aware. Then I came to different topics like, mindfulness was one of those. And as I, started investing some time, I won't say I invested so much time, but that made me completely change what I was doing at that time. I'm still an accountant, but I always knew there's much more to life than just checking off my checklist, that I made in my head.
Mhm.
Um, so I always knew, and then I always wanted to help others. So that's how kind of, when I started my journey, it's been now 4 years when I really got into it.
And what was it that you can kind of pinpoint for the audience that was actually stressing you out? Like you said, like you didn't have work life harmony, and we hear that so often, right? In the workplace, especially with women with small children or new mothers. It's even more exasperated because they're trying to just find their footing in motherhood. So would you
Yes.
say it was more motherhood transition? Was it relationships? Or was it just a combination of all the areas of your life that were just out of harmony?
I would say combination of everything. Uh, Work life was more obvious because as an accountant, because I was just there most of the time. and then working, and when you're working, and plus added when you're a new mother, you know, definitely I did have the support when I had my kids, but it just everything else that comes with it, because you know how they say that there's no manual, right? That comes with it. Uh, so what my expectations were, and how
Mm,
I seen other people doing it. And then when I really got into it, I'm like, oh my God, this is not nothing close to what I have heard, you know?
I'm
And
so
then
glad you
you,
mentioned that word expectations because
yes,
I think that is where the disharmony happens. Because a lot of times, like we go into motherhood thinking one thing or that it's going to be this way or how we saw it. And it's really an opportunity to design your life according to you,
yeah,
and not some outside influence because it's not the same,
yeah,
and I think you're so right. Like it doesn't come with the manual, but one thing that I have seen, and even within myself, with my first child, my son, I was so busy trying to get back to what I was before, and it'll
mm-hmm,
never be the same. And so I had to have what I like to call a mini death of my old self, and
yeah,
give myself permission to release that old version of myself with love,
mm-hmm,
in order to fully embrace motherhood. And I think a lot of times you hear so many women trying to get back to,
yeah,
and regardless of if it's your goal weight, whatever, like you're trying to get back to
mm-hmm,
your old, it'll, even if you're the same weight, you will never be the
mm-hmm.
same.
No, everything changes.
Yeah.
Now I accept and embrace that more gracefully. But
Yes.
I wish I realized. So that was one thing, expectations and just the pressure in general too. I feel after, finishing school, there was so much debt that we were, both were, working on. I wanted to take a break when I had the kids, but I didn't, couldn't do it. So it just the pressure of so many other things. You talk about being a girl or, belonging to an Indian family also. The expectations are very different, and especially when you become a daughter-in-law. So a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, which really changed a lot of things in my life.
Are you comfortable sharing some of those expectations just
Oh
for our
yeah,
audience who aren't as
definitely.
familiar?
Yeah, yeah. It just, um, fitting in was another thing, you know. I migrated to the United States when I was 17, um, born in India. So it was always that pressure of fitting in, first of all, right? And then as, time went by, when I got married, and then it was the expectations of looking perfect, doing perfect, everything has to be perfect. I don't know where that's written, but so I just couldn't understand um, why so many expectations and very less support. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, for example, when I had my daughter, so my daughter was, born first in 2015, just the expectation of course, I became a mom and then still performing 100% in the house and outside the house.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just couldn't wrap around that idea. Like, how would I do it? I mean, I won't lie that I tried. I tried for so many years to, fit in and, really make up to those expectations. But at the end of the day, that's where the stress was coming from. Wherever I wasn't happy with it, and I was always shooting for the next thing. And then just to add more to it, in corporate world, and it was always like the next thing. I am on this level. Okay, what do
Mhm.
I do? How do I get to the next thing? How do I get the next promotion? How do I fit in this department. So it was always pressure, expectations, just going for the next thing, always going for the next thing. So, yeah, that's what created a lot of stress, and which I understand now better.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing. And I think it'll resonate so deeply with a lot of
Hmm.
women, myself included, where it's a lot of self-inflicted stress, and when you self-inflict stress, then it stresses other parts of your life, including
Definitely.
relationships, especially.
Okay.
And so I know I had been there, like, especially as a new mother with my son. I actually took a lot of time off, when I first had him, because I honestly thought I wasn't going to have any more children, because I was
Hmm.
told that it was going to be difficult for me to conceive. And so I wanted to just enjoy every moment, and I think I took like 18 months off for my maternity leave. But making that transition, from having a small child and then getting pregnant pretty quickly after, he was about, I think, 8 months when I found out I was pregnant with my second child, you know, that brought on a lot of stress, because I
Yeah.
was now thinking, oh gosh, now I have to really go back to work, because
Yeah.
we have two kids, and so a lot was self-inflicted, but also, um, there was challenges within my relationship too, my relationship. So that also added to that. Like, would you say that you kind of struggled with relationships and kind of your emotions within your relationships early on?
Of course. Of course. I think just to start with, my own relationship with myself
Yes.
wasn't, I mean, I am not even talking about others. Yes, I mean, I can go on and on, but relationship with myself wasn't where I wanted to be. I was not, when it came down to me, I did not take care of myself,
Mhm.
you know, and then I experienced all that during my pregnancy, all that after, even, the phase was over, I wasn't breastfeeding or everything, but I still faced every problem that I can imagine, physically,
Mhm.
because the stress never went down, you know. So yes, my relationship with myself and um, just people around me wasn't very, I don't know what the word is, but where I wanted, not from expectation side, but um, as comfortable or, or I had a lot of support from certain people, but where I expected the most, I didn't have enough support, you know?
Were you able to articulate your needs?
No, no. Uh, when it comes down to that, and especially my background and my culture, we are never, uh, it's very difficult to put in words, but our needs don't matter. You
No,
know
I,
what I'm saying?
mhm.
And I never knew how to even say, okay, you know what? I'm having a hard time with this. Why don't you take care of the baby? I was having such a hard time saying that. And when I gathered the courage to do it, it was always like, wow, you can't do it,
Yeah.
because of course I'm like, yeah, I know where that's coming from
Mhm.
because, you're not used to it. I wasn't used to saying it. And of course, the other side is not used to listening to it.
Mhm.
That's how we're raised, right? Um, so no, I wasn't able to. It was only my very close relationships. Um, for example, one is my sister. Like she would come, she knew what I needed. Whenever she's around, I mean, I'm like, okay, great, I can sleep. I have a little break. But otherwise, in general, no, because I wasn't able to verbalize it. So I took all that pressure and stress to do it. Going to work and just doing everything at work, and then coming back and again, doing everything that what I need to and wake up during the nights and, do everything I was supposed to. So yeah, no, it was challenging. So the relationships were also hard and challenging. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. Do
I
you think,
understand
like,
it better now.
yeah, I can imagine. Well, do you think like resentment creeped into, like, because I find that when you're not able to articulate your needs, right? And it's a lot of times, unconscious, but it's a natural human thing to be
Hmm.
like, don't you see me?
Hmm.
And so it's like resentment creeps in, which then puts a bridge in the relationship.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was a big part.
Hmm.
In my heart, it was like, okay, why don't you see me? Just like how you
Hmm.
said, don't you see like I'm struggling? Or,
Don't you
uh,
care?
yeah, don't you care? And then, of course, that affected the relationships around me again,
Yeah.
because instead of having loving relationships and understanding relationship, that just changed the foundation of it, you
Yes.
know?
Oh my gosh. Yes. You sharing is going to be very helpful for others. And I know like that was my experience.
Hmm.
And I really was so confused because I pride myself on studying people, especially in my intimate relationships, and being so present and you
Hmm.
know being attuned to their needs. But I realize that people can only meet you as deeply as they meet their own self and their own
That's it.
needs. And
That's it.
so that was a huge learning for me because I realize like sometimes they're just not programmed that way.
No.
They don't even know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So it was good. But no, I'm so grateful that you shared. So thank you so much for your
No, thank
vulnerability.
you. Yes, thank
Walk
you.
us through kind of like some pivotal moments of when you turned inward to start addressing some of those things and made those changes.
More struggle in relationships,
Hmm.
more emotional, like when you don't understand what's going on, why it's happening. So that also, and then just physically, I had so much pain in my body. I had what's called plantar fasciitis, and doctors couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. They said it's because of the pregnancy, the weight gain, and and it will go away. So I waited and waited. My daughter was born, my son was born. It never went away. So I think the physical pain was a lot, but now I understand how the stress works, right? So when I had so much physical pain, I was more stressed. I was more, of course, I wasn't present, right? So it affected even all my relationships around me even more.
Hmm.
So 4 years ago, after COVID, we moved and life changed so much in so many different ways, you know. And then now we talk about adding so many other layers to it, to the current situation. So I think when I really started looking inward, and then I decided, okay, you know what? I am not finding all these answers outside. Nobody's helping me. There's gotta be a way. Um, and then, I started reading more. I don't know if you know, his name is Sadhguru. Okay, so he was talking about inner engineering, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. Right. And I'm like, okay, why not? And I love podcasts. So, I was listening to a podcast. So, and he's talking about this whole thing. I'm like, huh, that seems interesting, and he's talking about you gotta look within, you know. There are no answers outside. You won't find it. I'm like, has that been the problem all along? You know, my expectations from the outside world and why I am not getting all the answers. So I think that was the moment. I was at the very bottom, or you say in the very dark, and but I always knew that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Um, and I think my kids and my partner were kind of my hope that I have to get better, if not for myself, but for them, you know. But then over time it changed. I'm like, no, I have to get better for myself too, So that was the big moment in my life when I really started sitting with my own emotions, understanding, okay, all this coming from? So of course it was my past. My past was never resolved, you know. So everything kept adding up and up. My glass or my bucket, you call, it was completely empty and dry, you know. There was nothing to give. Slowly, I took his program, learned meditation, and from then on, life has been just changing and changing in good ways. Um, I have no more pain in my body.
Yay.
I'm so grateful for that. You know, I can walk, I can run. I was having such a hard time doing that too. And just so many ways.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you were saying, about going inward. And I think it's so important because we're so programmed. And I think, school does this to us, right? And even early on when we're learning from our parents, we're learning externally, you
Hmm.
know? And so we're almost like programmed to look for answers outside of ourselves as opposed to going inward. And, I remember sharing this quote a while back on social media where I said, out of darkness, light is born. It's in the shadow
Yes,
where awareness, unlearning, and growth begins. By tending to your inner garden, you can bloom even in the toughest of seasons.
so true.
I'm so curious because, many people find themselves in, difficult relationships or unfulfilling relationships. And I know you're working with clients today to create healthier relationships, not just with others, but also themselves, right?
Mm.
Like, what advice would you have for someone who recognizes that they're in a challenging relationship and might feel stuck and afraid to make changes?
Um, that's a great question. Um, yes, I think what I would say, and this is coming from my heart, that anybody who's struggling, one thing is it's not, permanent. This is all temporary, so this shall pass, you know. Uh, but I think the main and the important thing is you have to educate yourself.
Mhm.
Why you are struggling in a relationship with yourself or with others, you have to sit with it. You have to learn. Otherwise, you will never get answers. You will leave one relationship and go to the other one the same way, exactly the same way, because you have not done the work. And I know it's very challenging when you're already facing so much in a relationship. And then now on top of that, I am saying, you have to learn. A lot of the times I have seen people, and even with myself, once I started learning, educating myself, sitting with my own emotions, understanding, my relationships got better. Now I can say I am able to understand better. If you ask me now, I have no expectations right now. You know, uh, I have healthy expectations, because there's a difference. But I accept, and that's all in mindfulness, mindfulness principles. When I really started living by those principles, um, a lot of the a lot of the things was about me. I wasn't understood even by my own self.
Yes.
So once I started investing time, you have to invest time. I wish there was a personal development course in every school and every college, everywhere, in families, where you learn these basic skills as you're growing up. Because there's not, nobody is going to come and do that for you. So that is strictly my job. Or I make a choice, right? I make a choice, sooner or later, I will be out of this relationship, right? And then move on to something else. But why not educate ourselves and learn? And if that's the only option that you have, and please do so. But at least you will be better off where you started. And I don't know if you heard, her name is Dr. Shefali. She wrote a book, it's called Conscious Parenting, and that's my favorite and a life-changing book. she said, and she talks about relationship, and she's a therapist, about kids. She said, if you're having a challenge in a relationship, work work on yourself during you are in that relationship, because that's gonna teach you a lot more till you wait, say, okay, I will learn once I'm out of this relationship. No, you won't, because you're not in that situation anymore. So,
Exactly.
um, and
Well, relationships are mirrors.
it
Right.
is,
And so it's
it is.
like the person is able to hold a mirror up for you as you're learning, you know? And so I
Yes.
think that's the most crucial time. I mean, we should always, always be doing our work, right? Like in
Definitely.
every situation, every relationship. My
Yeah.
actual wish for everyone is that they become so obsessively curious about
Yes.
themselves that
Yes.
like where they're their own muse, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they gain inspiration from learning themselves, you know,
Yes.
and uncovering themselves and peeling
Yes.
themselves back. That's my wish for everyone.
Yes.
And you
No,
know,
I totally agree.
right, you know, it's like, and I
Yes.
know in school, think about in school, it's like we're
Mhm.
so programmed to worry about everyone else,
That's
you
it.
know, and it's like, oh, love your neighbor, and all these things are
Mm.
very important, but
Mm-hmm.
no one programs children to love themselves. And
Yeah.
so it's so crucial, you know, to first start with that, and
Yeah.
also like not just self-love but self-worthiness.
So
And I
true.
think a lot of times, because we don't feel worthy of certain things, like maybe you didn't feel worthy, you know, of even asking for help,
Yeah.
you know, and whether it's cultural, whether it was in your own,
Yes.
you know, mindset, whatever it is, you know, I noticed that you have four different people, and
Mhm.
Jamie Kern Lima, I think I'm saying her
Yeah.
name right. She, in her book Worthy, talks about four different people, you know, and
Yes.
she's like, you know, there's the type A person that's, you know, it's one basically that has like high self love, low worthiness.
Yeah.
The other person has high, you know, worthiness, low self love. Then the C person lacks all, you know, and then the D person has both. And, you know, I've seen myself personally go through that process, like, you
Yeah.
know, throughout my journey where I've been all of those people, you
Yes.
know, and the thing is when you lack worthiness within yourself, and that's something that, again, it's like self worthiness. So no one can give it to you. So it's
Yes.
so important to do your work, you know, whether you're
Yes.
pouring into yourself to understand yourself, to love the parts of you that you don't want people to see,
Yeah.
you know, and it's really
True.
like, you know, to that beautiful book, I can't think of the author's name, but radical acceptance, you know,
Yes.
getting to that place of radical acceptance, even if you're trying to grow, you know,
Yes.
but loving yourself as you are, because
Hmm.
you're enough at every state. So um, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm so curious because you've mentioned a few times now mindfulness practices. Like, how can mindfulness help individuals navigate difficult emotions that kind of arise in relationships, such as resentment that we talked about earlier, guilt, fear, you know, and even abandonment?
Yes. It is, I think, one of the gifts that I received in my life when I came across mindfulness. I believe what's happening now, what has been happening for a few years, is that we're all on autopilot, right? We
Oh,
have this checklist given by, you name it, society, family, culture, or whatever, right?
mhm.
And we just get so busy in just checking things off. We are living such a life on autopilot that we can close our eyes and go through our whole day without thinking. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing because you are not aware, you are not enjoying, you are not present, right? So how does mindfulness helps? I think it helps in every area, you know. If you talk about relationships, uh, or emotions, just looking within, acknowledging and accepting this is who I am, and growing. What's not needed, you let it go. I was never taught to let things go, you
Yes.
know, because I have not seen other people letting things go at all. What I said 10 years ago, it's so fresh that I spark and everything triggers, you know? So letting things go, you know? And one of the main thing of mindfulness is being present. Where this stress coming from? It's either from my past and my future, right? Has nothing to do with the present moment, especially in my life, if I recall everything. And just trusting the process sometimes, you know. I everybody says that I have faith and I have trust, but they don't. You
Yes.
know, we are so full of doubts. Okay, what if this doesn't happen? What if this happens and they don't accept me? You know, I don't have faith and I don't have the trust. We say it, doing is different, right? Um, so it has 9 principles of mindfulness. And once you start accepting, letting go, trusting, you know, being present, and bringing gratitude in your life, you know, uh, the whole game changes, you know. I started understanding my emotions better because I was present. I really started figuring out, okay, what is it really bothering me? Is it really something's bothering me what happened like 5 years ago? Or yesterday, you know, because yesterday is not the present moment either. You know, what am I, you know, why am I stressed about this? You know, um, so I think an individual can benefit if they're just struggling even overall in their life. Because my niche was not relationship and emotional in the beginning. It was strictly mindfulness. Because I still believe it. I highly believe, no matter what you're going through, if you start adapting mindfulness principles, your life will change. And I have worked with people, I have seen the change in their life, and they have verbally said it to me that life has changed. So I highly believe in that. Um, it's, you know, giving yourself time. Again, comes down to educating yourself. Mindfulness has more principles and it's a fancier term for meditation. Meditation teaches us to sit down with yourself, accept who you are, you know, and be present, trust the universe, you know, and letting go and, you know, be grateful. Be grateful that I woke up this morning and I'm alive. I think people are becoming more aware now because now we were having such a hard time leading our daily life, right? And now we are turning inward and we're kind of taking steps back. Okay, you know
Yeah,
what? If they were
I
talking about
cannot
that,
agree more. And I
mm,
think COVID really helped
yeah,
kind of still us because that's
yeah,
really what mindfulness and meditation is just stilling yourself,
yes,
not
slowing
just
down,
your thoughts. I mean,
yes,
not, excuse me, not just your body but your thoughts, your everything, and in really, getting to a place where you can sit with yourself. And I think
true,
it's so hard for people because they're
yeah,
afraid of what might come up,
yeah,
because they're comfortable even if they're uncomfortable, right? They're
yes,
comfort in that uncomfortable, mess. And
yes,
so they don't know what the other side looks like. So it's sometimes very difficult. But,
mm.
I say start small, like
Small,
even if
small,
you can carve out, there's 24 hours in a day, you can give yourself 10 minutes or start with 5, start with 1, like
yes.
whatever it is.
Start somewhere,
But start somewhere where you're and where you're just spending time with yourself. And I think
yeah,
I love that you mentioned the releasing or letting go. Like I do, 2 things where I release every night, like things that
yeah,
just don't matter, and then things that maybe I'm matter to me a little bit more deeply, I surrender to God because I don't have to
yeah,
carry it.
yeah,
And so I think like those 2 things have been a really great practice on top of the gratitude, and
yeah,
it's allowed me to, like have a lot more space within my body, because I think that's where a lot of stress comes from, is we're
yeah,
carrying stuff.
yes.
And so you got to get to a place where you can put it down.
Oh, we're carrying so many baggages and
Exactly.
everybody
And
around us.
sometimes it's not even ours. It's
No,
it's lineage baggage,
most of the time,
so
most of the time it's not ours.
no, exactly.
Just
Yes,
stuff, just
absolutely.
random stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things too that I find in relationships that's difficult, in addition to spending time with yourself, going inward and being able to articulate your needs, is also articulating your boundaries. And that's, one thing that I've seen, and also that has been a struggle of mine early on, especially in my 20s, was being able to um, kind of state my boundaries in a way
Hmm.
where I wasn't, in, I guess, accepting things that were almost like a betrayal of myself,
Hmm.
and so talk to me a little bit about boundaries. Like, how can someone identify like where they need boundaries, and like what advice would you give to maybe a client that you're working with on how to set healthy boundaries without feeling guilty?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just like how you said, I was never aware of it, and I didn't set boundaries till recently. I turned 40. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this before, but I'm so grateful. What I would say to others is start small. You don't have to block everything. We can't live like that. We're humans, right? So start small. How do you recognize if you have to build boundaries is what's bothering you on daily basis? Where's the stress is coming from? Are you having hard time saying no? Okay, let's just start practicing just saying no, wherever it's needed, right? Um, so I think the very first thing is recognizing it. I can tell you so many things, I can give you so many examples, but it's really what do I need to find my peace? If I can find my peace by skipping going to a party, let's just say, or a get together, that's my boundary. And that's healthy boundary, right? Because I am actually keeping my peace. Well, maybe because you were just so busy throughout the whole week,
Mhm.
right? And now it's Saturday and Sunday. You need to collect yourself, right? You need to ground yourself. You need to really take care of yourself. And if saying that one thing kind of saves you your peace and your mental, whatever you call it, just say it. Just do it. And then I would say also that don't worry about so much what that other will think. They will think whatever they have to think according to what they know, and that will never change, right? They are going to think whatever they need to think, even though you set your boundaries. And if you don't have any boundaries, they're still thinking whatever they have to think according to what they know. So boundaries can be very simple and complicated, but everything starts from me,
Yes.
right? Everything starts from you. So as you start to recognize which areas are more stressful, okay, name 1 to 10, okay, what's this number 10? Or if you can't even get there, let's just start from 1. Simple.
Yep.
So, but everybody do realize at one point that okay, now they need boundaries because now they're very in a dark place. So I definitely suggest before you go into a really, really dark place, let's just start small, be mindful of your own boundaries and what boundaries you're setting, you know, and you will be fine.
Yeah, I love that. And also too, like, hold your boundaries
Yes.
for you. Your boundaries are for you, right?
Yes.
And it's for your own inner peace and mental wellness.
Yes.
And I think it's so important that people get comfortable with
Yeah.
holding, their
So true.
boundaries for them, regardless of the outcome, because we can't control what happens in
Mhm.
anyone else, right? And
Yes.
regardless of if you do it for someone, or break your boundary, like, it's still going to be the same story in their mind.
Yeah.
So you have to really do what brings you, peace.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the more you hold them and get comfortable practicing them,
Mhm.
like, that's the key.
Yes.
um yeah.
Nothing works overnight. I wish
Oh.
things did. We're talking about practice, and
Mhm.
it's a years of work. And
Learning and
you gotta be
unlearning. Yes,
comfortable. Yes,
lots of that.
definitely.
Well,
Yes,
tell me, because, we've talked a lot about, mindfulness and meditation and, boundaries and articulating your needs and relationships. Like, do you have rituals, that you do to stay centered and to maintain your inner peace? How do you feel
definitely.
your mind, your body, and your soul?
I think I can't go without my rituals anymore. I did for so many years, and that's just how the programming was done, and I was used to. But now, meditation is what I feel like I have to do. And I love journaling. I
Mm,
started journaling long time ago, so many years ago. Uh, it was different back then, but now it's more of reflecting. I reflect a lot, you know. So that's one of the other practices. Um, I do a lot of, just like how you said cleansing, I do a lot of chakra healing and sound healing.
mhm.
So that has become part of my ritual. I have this big bowl that you can't see on the camera on my desk where I work. So throughout the day, I am just, making that sound and it kind of relaxes me.
Yes.
My kids do it, we all do it. So now it's like right here on the corner. We can't ignore it. That with beads, I work with a lot of beads because I feel like it just give when I can't be outside. If I can be outside, I love grounding, earthing. I go bare feet. That's what helped me. That's what still helps me. But it's just so cold right now outside.
Yes.
I can't do that. But I, go sit on the sand or on the grass. That's one of my ritual that I love doing. But on daily basis, it's journaling, reflecting, meditating, and yeah, that's that's about it.
Love that. Love it. Well, tell me this, because you mentioned several books, but name one book that you have recommended over and over, maybe to your clients, to friends, to family.
When somebody asks me about the books, it gets very hard because I have so many favorite books,
No, I,
and it
I
gets
know,
very
but
hard
think
to
of
just
think of that one book that you've recommended to lots of people.
conscious parenting. When that book
Love
came
it.
out, I heard Dr. Shefali on Oprah's podcast. I bought at least 10 books and I gave it to all the club, my cousins, my sister-in-law, my sister, and kept for myself. That was a life-changing book. It is
It is.
not only about parenting, she's talking about, okay, let's be conscious as, myself, and later on we'll talk about parenting. So that was a life-changing book. I still have it on my nightstand. It was a really good book.
Amazing. I love that book. That's a great recommendation.
Yes.
Tell the audience, like, where can they connect with you? And also, like, who do you serve in your coaching program?
So anybody who is struggling with relationships right now,
Mhm.
and again, relationships are with anybody, with themselves also. Um, and if they're having hard time just understanding their own emotions, because we don't know how our emotions work. So anybody who's struggling with that, and how they can reach me, my Instagram is life coach Kamal, and if you go over there, you can get to my Facebook, or my email is mindful dot certified life coach at gmail.com.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for this
Oh,
conversation. And thank
thank
you so
you.
much for blessing Sunday Soul Day. I know the audience is going to get some great gems from your
Yeah.
journey and also your transition into coaching. And again, if you guys want to reach out, I'll be sure to link all of her information in the description below.
Thank you so much. I am really grateful that you gave me this opportunity to come here. And this was such an honest, like a heart-to-heart conversation, I feel.
Oh, Thank you so much. That made my
Thank,
day. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank
Everyone,
you.
as always, have an amazing Sunday.